Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirishok here, and now, before I do begin, let me go ahead and give a brief little review. In the last part, we had quite a bit of things going on. Now, Deku, Marcy, and Chloe, they were asked to help the dead horses and the sorrows fight against the White Lakes. They have agreed in exchange for the assurance of a safe path back to the Mojave. And this, yeah, things just got a little bit more complicated. Daniel went to go talk to Izuku to try and let him know about what they are going to need them to do, what they need help with. And it certainly was quite a bit. That was interrupted whenever Daniel informed Izuku it was raining outside. And Deku, who has never seen rain, ran out to go investigate. It was incredible. Such a simple thing the old world has seen, but something so astonishing to him. It was amazing. These are people who have never had to fight for their lives against other people. Seeing the creatures of Zion as a threat is easy. Seeing humans as a threat was not something they could understand. The White Legs have complicated their structure, and adjusting to it is not something Daniel wants them to do. He can agree with securing the path to leave Zion. What he can't go with is killing the White Legs and exposing these people to the violence of war. But Deku, he agrees with Joshua Graham. If the White Legs run, they'll just be hunted down. The rabbit will run for its life, and the wolf, he'll run for his meal. Who wants it more? The rabbit or the wolf? It's that simple. Now, they have a lot of things to do. They need to take out the White Lakes forward camp. They have to disable a bunch of traps. They have to find the map. And most importantly, they have to kill a lot of the local wildlife because it's just incredibly dangerous. There's too many Yaguais currently in Zion, and they are definitely going to impede the mass migration of these two tribes. Now, with that being said, let's currently cut over to Izuku. Right now, a lot's going through his mind, as there is the gunfire, there is the explosions, and right now a man is walking past a hallway. For a mechanical fist does come through, and a massive object is crashing through the wall. Right now, it going to swerve as debris and rubble, does gonna fly out like shrapnel from an explosive. The person in the power armor suit whirling as they do go to turn. And when a bunch of people do to see this person make their way through the concrete barricades, they do to roar out about the soldier. Deku recognizing the language as Chinese, and he does it a rush forwards in the power armor. And right now, there is at the end of the simulation, where Izuku, he does go to climb out of the pod and go to exit it. Before he does it, stand up and go to someone shake off the fatigue and rub his eyes. Getting out of the pod and trying to just think about it. How to tweak everything. How to handle everything. And he does a turn looking over to some of the people who are still climbing out, wondering about how to adjust the simulations. And there is where he does gonna blink his eyes open and try to remember where he is. It's strange. Right now, him gonna feel the cool air of the cave. It's warm on his face. And Marcy's wing, it does lay over both him and Chloe. But he can still see his breath a little bit. It's not too bad from what his feet can tell him. Then again, he might want to actually wear some socks. this on his mind. Right now, him trying to slowly crawl his way out, however, waking these two up is a little inevitable. But luckily, he does manage to extricate himself from the situation. Marcy's wing does gonna move and he does gonna sit up as Chloe does try to pull him back in. But he does manage to escape. The two laying there next to each other as they do try to find a new source of warmth. And Deku, he does a good stand. Chloe beginning to yawn as Marcy does go to wake up. Her turning to see Deku as she does go to ask him if everything's alright. It's fine. Go back to sleep. I'm gonna go out hunting for breakfast. Her not even going to hear the rest of his sentence. Her going to fall back to bed as Deku, he does get a stand, turning and giving a small smile about the situation. Him turning back to the front of the cave and going to grab his bag, grabbing his bow and arrow and going to check it out. Whenever he gets back to the vaults, he's definitely going to look into making a compound bow. He never knew how interesting these things could be. Then again, he's not going to fully give up guns. Right now, him going to holster his revolver and then going to holster his knife. Him a bit worried about the blade since it is still damaged. Repairing it is not going to be easy. Then again, with some of the stuff Chloe found, he should go check out the cave. Right now, him going to leave. And after he does going to make his way through one of the caves and go up the mountain, he does go to follow Chloe's path, making his way inside, but still being a bit wary. She found the booby traps that were in the area. And the locals, they don't really come into these caves. The 5 skeletons inside told them this place holds many, many traps, or is simply a place of death. They don't really want to know. But whenever he does go to step into the room, he does go look at it. There's an ammo bench over there. There's a platform and sleeping area over there. Then there is a weapon bench right there. And he does going to make his way over, wondering if this place does have the material for him to fix up his knife. And he does go to turn. Him walking over to the Desert Ranger combat armor that he does get to see. Him looking at the leathers and the combat suit. Chloe found more records of this man from before the war, the survivalist. As far as they've been able to put together from the records here and in the other cave, the Sorrows call him the father, the man who raised their ancestors and kept them safe in the valley. He doesn't know who this man was, but from the records Chloe has shown him, he's been through life. It's honestly weird. His records are decades after the bombs fell, but they talk about it so vividly. Was he born before? Was he born after? They still gotta figure that part out. It's a bit of a mystery. Then again, Deku going to put the combat helmet on his head as he does make his way over and begin to repair his knife. It's a mystery they'll have to look into. Look out for some caves and see if they can find any more loot like this. This guy, he certainly knew his stuff. And Deku, he can respect another survivalist. Right now, him leaving the cave after, he has to put the helmet back and make sure to keep in mind that they might take it when they leave Zion. As there is an hour later, he does have to come back with a nice cooked meal ready for the two. Right now, him grilling it over the fire as he does to sit back on the log and going to wait. Bring up his Pip-Boy and expressing. Day 527. It's morning, early. You'll hear the fire, but honestly, it's been an interesting 24 hours. This entire place is an oddity. Strange. I think our overseers would definitely be interested in it. We can look into taking pictures and cataloging multiple things, but honestly, most of the fauna here has survived. It might have been exposed to creatures bringing in the radiation, but overall, the soil, everything here, it's beautiful. I've heard stories about what happened out west. They said that Appalachia, it was once inhabited. It wasn't hit directly by a nuclear strike. Then again, after the bombs, they said it was hit by another one, directly in the region. No one can confirm that, but from what I understand, that place is heavily irradiated and a glowing sea of rats, as far as I can tell. Then again, there are also currently ideas being thrown around about how to gain new allies in the Mojave. Our situation is a bit more complicated than I would like to imagine it, but that's simply the way of things. If we bring in more Brotherhood from outside the Mojave, that might bolster the Brotherhood to violence and recklessness. The NCR would be, well, I'm forgetting the correct word at the moment, but they would be disheartened to violence. I think that's the right word to use here. The Brotherhood might be emboldened, but there's also the idea that this isolated chapter would be at fault of a possible war. Ideals might have strained from the time spent in the Mojave, or even the idea that this chapter, being from a different region entirely, they have different motives. They have different ideas of what happens. And that's another problem. The NCR, however, if we do have to deal with them, it's all politics and things that I don't like. We have the backing and idea of their vault. Their vault dwellers. They are more interested in listening to us, but clearly from a negotiation standpoint. With no assured promises, nothing concrete, they're going to stonewall us. And honestly, I can see why the Legion don't like the NCR for that. And I don't like saying that, for what they stand for. They can get things done efficiently and quickly. There's no time for bureaucracy or paperwork. It's just action. Anyways, our situation is very complicated, but if we have any updates, then we'll put that to a further discussion. As for right now, Chloe brought up an idea that after breakfast, you might find in one of their logs. Him going to step forwards and go to flip the stakes over as he does go to continue. And the two, they do eventually begin to stir at the smells coming from the campfire. And Izuku, he does go to flip his wrist, allowing his message to end. As they do begin to go over what they're going to be doing this morning. They do begin to eat a hearty breakfast. Chloe, talking about it. She can collapse the Yaoguai caves. Once that's done, all those creatures out in the open, they will be able to take them all out. And then again, if they're looking for firepower, they really should check on leading either the assault on the White Lakes camp first or seeing about those traps. If they have plasma mines, plasma grenades, stuff like that, then it will definitely work against those creatures. I mean, hell, if it doesn't, then it is going to be a problem. And they do go to tap on the wall of the cave with their club. And the three do to turn forwards, looking at weakened clouds, who does to step in and stare at the three. Right now, them eating their second breakfast as she does begin her approach, asking exactly if they are going to be joining them. They have not come out yet. We're making plans. We're a little busy. Are you? Yeah, we are. Your leader, Daniel. He mentioned about the Yaoguai problem. We were just talking about that. Are you talking about how to take on the Den Mother? The ghost of she? Ghost of who? We believe a spiritual beast exists in the mountains. She lives nearby. We have heard her roars echo throughout the valleys. They are powerful, and she is vicious. She would not take kindly to the slaying of her kin. Really? Has she done anything recently? No. You don't understand. Our most fierce hunters, they will go on a quest, and they will fail to return. We believe that she is taking them as they go on their spiritual hunt. Their rite of passage as warriors. Her holding up her Yao Guai gauntlet. And she does begin to express. They are still working on making all of them their armor. And if they do wish to help out, then perhaps they can take on the beast. Take on the spiritual quest themselves and return as mighty hunters. She does wish to see their prowess firsthand. And they do to look at each other, wanting to ask questions, but deciding that for now they'll leave that. Right now they can deal with the spirit bearer in a minute. Yeah, what does their life become? Honestly, go ahead and just add that next to the alien abductions, spirit bearers, and people who like to vanish from time to time. Mysterious people. That a thought Deku does have to throw to the wayside, sighing and going to let it go. Him snapping back to the conversation as Waking Clouds does start talking about the tunnel that they've trapped. And Izuku, he does understand. Him going to stand up and talking about it. If Chloe does want to take on the tunnels, she can. She can collapse them and then deal with the traps. Does that sound fair? Sure. But what will you two be doing? Well, we can look into taking out the White Lakes camp. Afterwards, we got a map we gotta find. That sounds fair. Do you think that you'll be able to do it, though? I'm fairly certain we can. Your objectives are closer, right? They're not too far away. Then again, what about you? I can fly him. Deku nodding his head. And Waking Clouds, she does go to perk up as she does go to stay silent. Her still quite intrigued to watch this woman fly. And they do begin to leave. Right now, stepping out of the cave as some people, they do go to watch them begin to make their way back into the camp from the mouse cave they came from. Now, when people do go to watch Chloe begin to grow in size, she does go to hunch over. Right now, her going to sit down on her back feet. And she does go to focus. Right now, people watching as her mouth does have her fangs elongate. And her limbs do begin to elongate in a seemingly unnatural way. And she does nearly turn into, well, a different form of Yao Guai. Her body does seem to start producing hair. And that's something that they do go to stare at. Though the scales that do begin to emanate through her skin are another thing they go to watch for. Her beginning to sprint off quickly as she does go to leave. And everyone, they do go to watch that. As Marcy, she does go to bring her hands up and go to reach around her back. Her wings beginning to expand out of her skin as the sounds that do begin to come from her, Wing Clouds does get to visibly cringe at, hearing the strange cracking and protrusions that do begin to emanate. And Deku, he does it a watch on. Marcy beginning to grow in size herself a bit before she does go to stand taller than Deku. Her grabbing him as she does to flap her wings and begin to move up. And whenever she does it grow more and more in size, eventually she does it let go. Deku bring his arms up as she does to grab him by his shoulders and pull him into the air. Her beginning to scale the cliffside as she does eventually gain enough altitude to go up. And people, they still do to watch on. Right now, Waking Cloud's going to pray to the Father as Daniel, he does get a turn. Right now, trying to think about exactly what type of manner of beast he signed up for. They claim to be humans, but certainly they might be hellbound. Then again, strange miracles do occur. They asked for a miracle, and they were sent warriors, creatures of war. Perhaps they may not be demons, perhaps they may be angels. And that's a thought that Joshua does hope for. They're heading back to the Mojave, and knowing their business, they're bound to get caught up with Caesar. That prick. And right now, we do have where Deku and Marcy, they do begin to try and find the White Lakes camp. They had reports from the dead horses that said at Bighorn Bluff, the White Lakes were seen entering the area. However, the same path that was taken was not repeated. More of the White Lakes came into the same area. However, these people were packing gear. So quite clearly, it's a camp. These people are getting ready for scouting and advancement into the region. Far more than they have already. Their main base is said to be in another region. Another area that is heavily protected by their own people. And that's one problem at a time. Right now, however, Marcy, she does go to turn. Her being to fly that direction as she does see the tents from above. And whenever the White Legs do a turn, their own people begin to face the sky, they do going to be met with a sight that has been never before seen. Them going to scream out as they do going to start firing at the demon in the air. The winged creature that does a suck in and inhale of breath as Deku, he does go to bring his hands up, tapping on Marcy's legs. Her dropping him as he does begin to change. Marcy gonna let out an exhale with a mighty scream that does mean a cut into the camp. Many of the Whitelegs being disoriented and thrown off balance. And she does let a watch as the person she aimed towards, the person next to them, they went rushing to the ground, screaming towards the tent. However, they were directly hit by her attacks and blasted backwards into the ground. However, the path she cut through the tent and the camp, yeah, it arced almost like a C. Then again, it just went a little too high towards the end. Her trying to avoid the gunfire from someone with an anti-material rifle. And when that shot does a ring through the air, she does go to turn her head as her wing, it does go to take a small clip from it. Right now, her looking directly at that person as there is Deku. Whenever he did go to land, he let out a mighty roar. Her right now flapping her wings to go overhead, getting ready for another strike to come around. And there is with the person with the rifle, they do go to turn. Right now, watching as people do to aim their weapons towards Deku, and he does come rushing in on all fours. Him bringing up his claws and jabbing them directly in the chest of one of the Whitelegs. Him directly stabbing into them with 4 large claws and going to tear them up into the air. Right now, the person with the weapon, they do go to bring it up and aim at Deku. Deku turning and seeing the weapon as he immediately does a turn trying to chuck the body at this person. However, it does go off. The rifle crashing into the tribal as they do begin to explode. Right now, them flying into chunks and parts as Deku, he is hit directly in the chest by the anti-material rifle. And it does gonna hurt, directly cutting into his body. Right now, him attempting to try and regain his bearing and rush towards the person. Their second blast going off his Deku, he doesn't feel it slice into his shoulder and neck, and that it does make him rush towards them as they do go to try to load the third shot. And when they do to pull back the hammer and go to thrust it forwards, they do go to rechamber around as it raise the weapon towards Deku, and he does go to grab the barrel of the gun. Him aiming it towards the sky as he does gonna smash this person directly against the wall and begin to roar into their face. Them highly alarmed as Deku does snap their neck and they don't let go of the weapon. Him turning and glaring directly at the weapon. Happy to have one. Pissed off as he doesn't feel the blood draining down his front. And he does get a turn, looking at the rest of the tribals as they are hurriedly aiming their weapons back at him. Since the thing in the sky, it's a problem. But that thing's worse. Someone chucking a Molotov directly at him. And Deku, he does get a rush forwards as he has to take the attack, bursting into flames. Him crashing into someone and going to swipe at another. Slash him across the chest as Marcy does come back around. But this time, she does a fly down, picking 2 people up and ripping them up into the air. Them trying to attack and to bring up their tomahawks. However, when she does get high enough, she does go to let them go. Right now, them descending towards the ground as she does go to grab her wings with her arms and begin to maneuver back around. She's not fully delved into her wild side. She was just strong enough to pick up Deku and fly around. Then again, she's gonna need to land or dive further into this part of herself. She's a bit intimidated to do that, but honestly, she feels good right now. Better than ever? Maybe she should. See how far she can push this mentally. But not her flying back over the camp and seeing that Deku is taking a massive amount of gunfire from about a dozen different tribals. And one does charge him with a fireman's axe as he does go to throw a body directly at one of them. It flying through the air as one does try to approach Deku with a riot shotgun, another firing a trail carbine, as another one they do going to use a 12 gauge shotgun. And Deku, he does get a turn, grabbing the one that does hold the fire axe, them burying it into his leg as he does a stab into them. And she does a fly down, descending on to one of them that does go to have a Molotov. Her crashing into them at high speeds. Her feeling multiple cracks under her as she does a turn, grabbing the Molotov and chucking it directly at another tribal. Them spinning her way as she does a roar out that direction, and the Molotov does get to explode. Right now, them being blasted backwards and covered in fire, hitting another person as they begin to try and scream out. Her turning and grabbing the weapon and going to spin, blasting down all of them that she can with the 12 gauge. And we do have Chloe. Chloe, she was sneaking her way through the area. She saw Deku and Marcy overhead. And right now, she was intrigued. They're going to have a good time over there. That she's well aware of. However, right now, she was going to where the coordinates of the Yaoguai cave were said to be. Her going to move quickly and quietly through the area, trying to avoid many of the creatures around here. And that is not the hard part. Right now, however, you do have the Yaoguai. They may be able to pick up her scent. She's not sure how much more powerful mutated bears are compared to other creatures in the wasteland, but she's not really willing to find that out in one-on-one combat. She's leaving behind more of her heavier gear. Then again, she does have a few things they've picked up on their way through the travels. Her still quite intrigued about what's going to happen. And this is where she does go to head down to the caves and begin to try and make her way inside. Her going to place the explosives and get out quickly. And when she does go to do so, she does go to hold up the detonator, stepping out. Her turning her head and going to hear the screams of those people. Her watching two people be dropped in the distance as she does go hear a massive, massive explosion. Right now, her turning her head and going to see a Yaoguai rushing down the street in her direction. And she does get to stare at that. Right now, turning and deciding if she should run or fight. Then again, trying to use her own venom against it could be an interesting battle, an interesting tactic. Right now, her going to bring up her weapon and go to think. Pulling the pin on the grenade and going to chuck it forwards at the ground. And it does not fly through the air, crashing to the ground by the exploded car. The Yaoguai making its way past as it does explode behind the creature. And it does go to roll forwards as it is staggered towards her. And she does it await, turning and beginning to try and scale the cliffside with her claws digging into the rock. And when the creature, it does go to recover, it does go to turn back, trying to make its way back to the cave since it heard a sound this direction. Though whenever it does see the rubble blocking the entrance, it does begin to start emitting sounds of distress. Before Chloe does go to leap down and go to crash on the back of the Yaoguai. Her baring her fangs and going to rip directly into the side with a massive chomp. Her trying to find its jugular and slashing into its body with her claws. It roaring back onto its back legs and staggering backwards, crashing into the ground. And she does find herself under this 1 ton, if not 2 ton creature. Right now, her pushing up on it and trying to get it off of her, trying to tap more and more into her own wild side. And she does a bare her fangs, roaring at the creature. It going to bring up its claws and try and slash at her. Her going to sweep in close and go to stab out, punching it directly in the stomach. Hard. And it does go to exert her breath as she does go to throw her hands up and go to roll out from underneath it. Right now, her throwing herself forwards and kicking her leg out, crashing it directly into the knee of the bear, buckling it sideways as all of that weight on one leg does going to make it stumble forwards and stagger. Her turning and taking her ability to its limit. Her roaring up and stabbing her own claws directly into its neck. Her beginning to pull as the bear does go to slash at her wildly. And she does go to pull away, allowing it to bleed out, turning and beginning to leave, as it does try to get back up and go after her. But with the venom and blood loss, along with a broken limb, and possibly another broken limb, it can't really get too far. Right now, her beginning to rush her way through the Valley of Zion, and it makes her feel free. Something about it is making her own instincts run wild, and she does get somewhat let out a howl through the valley, trying to make her way back, but then remembering with a sudden stop that she needs to go deal with a bunch of different traps. And with a somewhat of a sigh, she does go to turn her attention in another direction, making her way towards the bridge that is close by where Deku and Marcy currently are. And those two, let's cut back over to them. Deku, he does currently sit there, still mutated. And he does go to sit on the side of a mountain and try to think, looking in towards the camp. It's more like a hill, actually, now I'm thinking about it. He does sit there on the ground on the hill, overlooking the camp and trying to figure out if he's alright. Right now, he's covered in a lot of wounds. Some are deep, and some aren't too bad. However, Marcy, walking up to him, she does go to examine the wound in his shoulder where he took a shot from the damn anti-material rifle. And looking at it, yeah, she's gonna need to make sure there's no shrapnel in there. And then she does a turn to the wound that Deku, he currently put a stem pack into. However, he's really damn lucky that they didn't clip his throat too badly. It got him pretty damn well in the shoulder. More like in the back towards the front where his neck was. The bullet went straight through the flesh and pulled on some of it real damn hard. It didn't strike bone, but if it was just an inch lower, yeah, it would have torn through the top of his collarbone. And that would have been a real fucking painful experience, since it probably would have torn way more stuff than that. It hit the artery and even might have gotten his esophagus. He's lucky he was mutated. And his healing is way too abnormal. Right now, Deku going to roll his eyes and talk about what they'll do back at the camp. Though she does go to raise a hand to him and inform him. Even with stim packs, that wound looks bad. She's gonna have to sew it shut and deal with it. And the thing with his shoulder, she'll have to deal with as well. It's gonna suck, but it's gonna be what happens. Right now, her going to pat him on his head and somewhat watch Deku lean onto her side. Right now, they've got to get him fixed up. Then again, her holding up her own wing. This doesn't look too bad either. Him turning and seeing the spot, it was close. Then again, trying to hit a moving target in the air, especially with the damn recoil on that thing, isn't easy. Him nodding his head as she does gonna talk about it. Right now, beginning to meet it again and going to wait. Deku grabbing the anti-material rifle as they do fly back over to the camp. Now, when people do get to see the two land, they do go to wait. Right now, them going to be approached by a ton of people as Chloe does come rushing over. Her going to ask them if everything's done, but when she does a spot Deku, she does get a mighty good look at that wound on his shoulder. And yeah, that looks pretty bad. It's almost the size of a billiards ball. And with a one on his neck, it looks like someone took a literal bite out of him. Then again, Marcy does get a turn. Her asking for Daniel's sewing equipment and if someone has anything that can help her grab the medals. Turning to Chloe and telling her about what's going on. And Chloe does get a nod. Right now, Deku going to sit there as Joshua does come over, talking about how they've done something remarkable today. And Izuku does get a shrug, him ignoring the pain that is burning on his neck. And Joshua does look a little envious in his gaze. Deku nodding his head and going to ignore the pain again, talking about it. He gets it. He might be envious, but if he knew what he had to do to get this strong, he wouldn't want it either. The man looking at Deku and going to watch him meet his own gaze. Him saying the next words with a lot of clarity. Their first interactions with the wasteland are quite different. All are the same. They were changed into these things and put through a lot. You've known this world. We haven't. We've only been living in it. The man nodding. As whenever Deku is led over and sat down, they do begin to start picking into his wound, trying to make sure there's nothing that can cause an infection inside. And Marcy, after sealing up the area where she could, Deku, he talked about just using a stim pack. Then again, she talked about things not healing the right way. And he had to sit there and listen as to the amusement of some of the tribals. And Chloe, she brought up the idea about what they could be doing. Right now, they could go to New Mexico, investigate the Sierra Madre broadcast, and use it as a bit of a beacon to just head that way. Make sure they aren't going wrong. Until they pick up an additional broadcast or run into people who may know where the Brotherhood of Steel is. And Marcy, she does get a glance up at Chloe while stitching Deku's neck closed. Right now, her asking Izuku if she's brought up this idea to him. She has brought it up last night. She thinks it can help the Brotherhood in negotiations with the NCR. Will it? I can see problems with that. And the more keep popping up, the longer I think about it. The Brotherhood is too empowered. They go into a civil war. Or the NCR, they double down on their arrogance. Like they do. Chloe, I'm just saying. Or, the fact of the matter is the NCR get reckless. They bring more people as a show of power and spread themselves too thin. But with the Enclave, that's another problem. It's a problem waiting to happen. What do you mean? What are you talking about? If you guys bring in the Brotherhood from another area, are you sure that would be a good idea? Yes, they deal with the Enclave first, but then they would turn to each other. And if we're in the wrong, they could try to take out our own people. Yes, I see your point. But there's also the idea that we can at least bring them in temporarily. If they become a problem, we deal with them. Besides, I'm not sure if it's worth an entire chapter coming in. Maybe not. We can look and see what we find. But I'm not well versed in the idea. I don't like it. Maybe not. But Chloe wants to investigate it. Are you sure? I am. Are you absolutely sure you want to go? Yes. If there's a change that can help us, or we even find additional vault dwellers, it's a risk we gotta take. We don't know when the next time we'll be out here is. Besides, it would be good to understand what's going on over there. We didn't find a lot in Utah. We still haven't. Salt Lake City's a mess, and most of the stuff here is irradiated forest. We got lucky with Zion. We still might get lucky. Who knows? We don't know. That's the problem. Marcy, I'd have to agree with Chloe. It's a risk we can take. If the Enclave is still messing around with experiments, then we have to take a chance. Then again, there is the idea that we deal with them on our own. We bring the boomers in, as we've already discussed. That can work, but we mainly rely on the Brotherhood. It could be our only option. Are you sure? The best other idea is you deal with the NCR. I'm not exactly sure if they want to send a bunch of people to the death for the Enclave. Unless we get specific power armor squads or NCR rangers. I don't know. Is there any other option? We haven't found one. Marcy, I think it's our best shot. It might be a long shot, but at this point, dealing with what we're dealing with, we're at a standstill. Either we get help from another chapter and they kick these guys into gear, or nothing happens. Besides, once we deal with the Enclave, we can figure things out from there. Marcy going to fall quiet as Deku does going to flinch when the needle does dig a little too deep in his skin, and she does go to watch him squirm a bit as she does pull free the thread. And she does go to open her mouth to ask, so, is this a majority vote, or do they all three have to be in agreement? Chloe going to express, bring up her hands about how they mentioned it had to be all three. It's only fair. Besides, if they're lucky, it will only add maybe another month. At the very least. A month and a half, even then. That still gives them plenty of time to deal with the NCR. At least 5. And she does get a nod, feeling a bit more happy about her declaration. And Marcy does try to think about it for a second. The goods, the bads. What can be done there, and if it can all work out? The NCR military or the Brotherhood of Steel? There is the unhappy thought that Caesar's Legion could probably help far faster. If the Enclave haven't already reached out to them. If that has already been done, she doesn't even want to think about super mutant legionaries. Yikes. Yeah. Perhaps looking into what's going on in New Mexico could work. Find backup there, another chapter, something. It's worth investigating. Okay. Fine. But the moment I don't think our expedition is doing anything worthwhile, I'm calling for us to leave. No ifs, ands, or buts. Fine. I can agree to that. We'll track the Sierra Madre and go from there. See what's going on with that place at all first. Her nodding her head. And this is where Joshua does come to walk up, expressing about how, if they're all okay, then he would like to extend an offer of celebration to them. What they've done today has been more work than they've gotten to do in the last month. The White Legs, they've certainly taken quite a bit of a blow. Today is a day for celebration. Did they take out the Yaguai? No, just the cave. I see. Right now, that should keep the White Legs busy. Tonight, however, we should celebrate. Take some time. And if you do wish... never mind. Him turning to leave. Him going to whisper a prayer under his breath. And right now, there is where Waking Clouds, she does, go to walk up with a man. And the man, he does is bow his head in a little bit of reverence to the three. All of them staring at him as he does go to express, "Mighty warriors, they should undertake a vision quest. See if they can fight the evil spirit. He does wish for them to undertake this task. Perhaps not tonight, as tonight is a night of celebration, but when they do feel up to it. The quest must be done at night. It is a journey that will take them beyond, allow them to see through to the other side. It will help them conquer the spirit that has been angered. She will not let her children die. She will not let them go without a fight. Many of their hunters have tried going against her, and they have failed. However, if the ancestors saw fit, if the Father saw fit to send them, to aid them, then yes, they are the ones who will take out the mother, the ghost of she." The man bowing his head and expressing to them about the roots in his hand and what he can do for them. And all of them, they do go to hear about this quest. And Deku, he has a turn back to the man, asking about what they will do. "You must take the drug, the sacred tea, and kill the bear. You will go to the other side, see many things." And Deku, he does go to hear the awkward chime of his radio. Him looking down at his Pip-Boy and turning his neck. Him glaring at it and feeling his stitches be pulled. Rhino Marcy thumping him in the side of his head and telling him about how he's not going anywhere at least for an hour until that heals. Besides, that should have taken until about evening. Her turning to Chloe, talking about how the two can go hunt down some of those Yaguai. They already have to go investigate that damn cave, and she wants him to get some rest. She'll pull out his shrapnel, then they'll go. And that is going to be that. Her glaring at Deku as he does go to bring up his hands and tell her he's got it. He was just trying to figure this all out. And she does give a small nod, letting out a breath and talking about it. Anti-material rifles aren't something to just shrug off. This is serious. And he does nod without saying a word. Her giving him a small smile before she does gonna grab some pliers and go to dunk them in the cup of whiskey they have. Her handing the whiskey off to Deku, which he does then immediately go to Paul. Right now, her getting to work. And with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.